Okay, today I'm going to discuss something Daniel requested, right? You told me this beautiful story that was in the post about 4 old women, elderly women who were all Holocaust survivors, who decided after many years of attending their own granddaughters and great-granddaughters bat mitzvah, that they also want to have a bat mitzvah. And one of them, unfortunately, died 2 weeks before. She was in her 90s. Yeah. But he said it was beautiful to see, the lady. So I asked him, would you like to see women getting an Aliyah to the Torah? He said, well, of course. So I said, let's see the halakha to see what it is. And not theoretically, we're going to talk about that. Let's read
Let's do it.
Let's read the sources.
Fill up the synagogue and make some money.
Let's read the sources. It says the following. The two, Rabbi Yaakov ben Arosh, in his summary of halakha, it says the following. Motzin Sefer Torah vekorin shiv'a. He says on Shabbat you take out the Sefer Torah, you call up 7 people. On other days, we know all the rules. On Hol HaMoed 4, on Yom Tov 5, and Yom Kippur 6, and on Shabbat 7. Hakol olim leminyan shiv'a, afilu isha vekatan. Everybody is counted among the 7 olim, including a woman and a minor, and a kid who's not bar mitzvah. Aval amru hachamim, isha lo tikra b'tzibur, mipnei kevod hatzibur. But the rabbi said a woman should not read publicly because of the honor or the kavod, the respect of the public. So we have to look exactly at the words.
So Aliyah, but not to read.
Oh, so Sammy right away give us the answer to all the questions. Seriously, because everybody's struggling with that. What this it says on one hand, he says a woman should go up, but she should not read it publicly. So, and especially it started from the Ashkenazi community, that since for them Aliyah and reading was the same thing. To have an Aliyah and to read the Torah is the same thing. Why? Because in the Ashkenazi community, the Oleh, the person who gets the Aliyah, is not allowed to read. If you request, in the most Ashkenazi community, you go up to the Sefer and say, I know this one, can I read it? No. Why? Originally, when they established Kala Torah on a regular basis, they made the rule that each person who goes up, reads his own portion. Everybody was knowledgeable and they knew how to read, so each one would read his own portion. Then they realized that some people are not knowledgeable enough, and they're embarrassed if you tell them to read publicly. They mix up some words and letters, and people sometimes correct them, and they're offended. There were cases like that where people actually, the one who went up and read was corrected and started fighting with the people of the synagogue. What do you know? You don't know. I know better than you. They said, you know what? We will appoint a representative called Hazan or Baal Koreh, the reader, who will read the Torah for them. So all that you have to do is go up and say the bracha, and he will read it for you. But they said, if you could read yourself. If you can't, he'll read for you. In the Ashkenazi communities, people decided we don't want to create a distinction. That some people who would ask the representative to read will be embarrassed that they cannot read themselves. So, no exceptions. The representative, the Hazan, always reads for the Oleh. In the Sephardic communities, there was either or. If you want, the Hazan will read. If you want to read, you could read. In the only community where the original minhag was still preserved until recently, until today, the Yemenite community, because in the Yemenite community there's a very strong emphasis on reading the Torah with the children from a very young age, so everybody knows how to read accurately, and also their ta'amim are more simple. So all you need to know is where to divide the sentence in two and where to do sof pasuk, more or less. Meaning, like just knowing the comma and period, you're fine. So that's the Yemenite community. So now, but in the Ashkenazi mentality of separation, no separation, Aliyah and reading is the same thing. So when they look at it, they read the pasuk, the halakha is saying, technically, women are counted as some of the seven olim, but Hachamim overrode this halakha and said that she should not get an aliyah because it's disrespectful for the community, disrespect for a woman to go up to the Sefer Torah. But what Sami commented is probably the right thing, that that's what halakha means. A woman should get an aliyah, but she should not read from the Sefer. She should have the representative read for her. And here's the question: why? Why is it that even if they said, and it's written in the Shulhan, the tool, even if we say a woman can get an aliyah, we don't want her to read publicly. So most commentators said the reason for a woman not to read publicly is because what is called kol isha erva, that a man is not allowed to hear the voice of a woman singing. It's against the halakha. So that is a discussion by itself. So, yeah, you've seen the stories from Israel where religious soldiers walked out from a ceremony because female soldiers were singing. It was very embarrassing. Or even 2 weeks ago at the FIDF gala, right? We had some rabbis at the table, and everything was nice and dandy. But the moment they went up, a girl to sing a tikva or something, or another song, another tikva, he walked out. Really? Nicely, gently, not. He didn't do it in an offensive manner, but he was concerned about hearing her singing. So, but this is not a good argument because it doesn't say here kol isha erva. They don't use this argument. They use kavod hatzibur, the respect of the community, and also even for those who considered the prohibition of hearing women singing, it only applies to a setting to a rowdy setting, like let's say they're at a bar, they drink, in a way that is there's no decorum or it's lustful. But to hear Shirei Kodesh, it was very common among all Sephardim and even among the Ashkenazim, the Yeki German community, that women would sit with the men and sing Shabbat songs and things like that. So definitely in a Bet Knesset, reading from the Torah should not be a problem. And even more so, it's not a song. It's just a melodic, it's intonation, but not really a song. So, but before that, let's look 1 second what the commentary said. Maybe we misunderstand. Maybe it was never practiced, right? Maybe just a theoretical halakha. It says this: Katav Rabbi David Abu Dirham Bitfilot Hachol. Rabbi David Abu Dirham was a commentator from Sepharad. Later moved to Morocco. The family in Morocco. Abu Dirham wrote a book that explains all the minhagim, the practices of his time. And he says, Gabei ir shekula kohanim. What happens if you have a city or a synagogue where everybody is a kohen? How are you going to give out the aliyot? Is going to be 7 kohanim? Nira midvrei Rambam, according to Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, אם יש שם נשים או קטנים, כהן קורא פעמיים, ושוב יקראו נשים או קטנים, שהכל משלימים למניין 7. So this is an instruction and a practice that was followed in the field, that if you had a synagogue where everybody was a kohen, the kohen would get the first aliyah and the second aliyah, and the rest of the aliyot were given instead of the kohanim to women or children. Because if you give a kohen at the next aliyah, it's like you're saying that he's not fit to get the first aliyah, and then you're doubting his the validity of his kehuna. No, there is a genealogy, his pedigree. So v'chen katav Rabbeinu Yeruham, etc. And that's now it's the Bet Yosef. Now Rabbi Yosef Karo is writing. He says, "Ulefum ikar dinan ame sheno mevarech ela apotech ve'achotem." Isha ve'katan en korin rishon va'acharon. Actually, he quotes here Rabbeinu Nisim. Rabbeinu Nisim of Gerona in Spain. Rabbeinu Nisim Girondi wrote a commentary on the Rif, Rabbi Yitzhak Alfasi, and he says that originally the bracha when we have Shiva Olim, not everyone would say bracha before and bracha after. only the first one would say the first bracha, then 7 people, and the last one would say the last bracha. So it says in that case, a woman should not be the first one, because when she says the bracha, she covers for all the rest. It's better if she goes second, third, up to the 6th, but not the first or last. He says, but now, hashta de takun rabanan shivarchu kulam isha vekatan, korin afilu rishon ve'acharon. This is halakha from Spain, very not theoretical, very practical. He says now that we have the takana, that everybody says it's his own bracha before and after. A woman and a minor can get even the first or less aliyah. So this is what the two Rabbeinu Yaakov ben Arosh writes. I'll look for a second in what the Shulhan Arukh, Rabbi Yosef Karo himself rules finally. This is in chapter 288 of Ilchot, 282 of Ilchot Shabbat. Shulhan Aruch rules the same. Hakol olim leminyan shiv'a afilu isha, even a woman, so even a woman, because people would consider a woman not fit to get the aliyah. Vekatan sheyodea lemi mevarchin, and a minor, as long as he knows who is he blessing, who is he praising, can get an aliyah. Now, in some places, minors don't get an aliyah; they only get the additional aliyot. But the Sephardi minhag was to give minors before bar mitzvah and aliyah. Aval amru hachamim isha lo tikra b'tzibur mipnei kvod hatzibur. Same language and the same distinction that Simon made before. She could get an aliyah but not read from the Torah publicly. And the Hagar, Rabbi Moshe Isserlis, who represents the Ashkenazi halacha, says ve'elu dafka mitztarfim li'anyan kruim aval lo shiyu kulam nashim o ktanim. Says don't make all 7 olim women, only some of them. So you see, this is a halakha that everybody follows. Everybody follows Shulhan Aruch, and nobody allows a woman to get an aliyah. Nobody in the Orthodox. If you give a woman an aliyah today, your synagogue is not going to be called Orthodox anymore. It's going to be called maybe Open Orthodoxy. Or some people say conservative, but if it still wants to belong to the Orthodox. Conservative, they will come with labels. In the Sephardic world, for sure, this was practiced in many places, but it was not recorded. The one record that we do have that this was done is from the diaries of. There are a couple other sources. One of them is the wife of Sleman Sassoon. Farha Sassoon was a very wealthy family of bankers who moved from Iraq to India, and they maintained contact. At one point, they asked my great-grandfather, Rabbi Ovadia, to come and be the rabbi in India, and he refused. He went to Israel instead. But at one point, she traveled back from India to Iraq. Along the way, she stopped in in several communities. She was a very learned woman. They gave her tremendous respect and kavod, and gave her an aliyah. In Iraqi communities, we're talking about the late 1800s. Now, let's go back just for a moment and try to figure out what is the meaning of why did the rabbis or the halakha phrase it like that a woman should not read publicly because of the respect of the public? And the answer is this. When we go back to the origin of why do we have a hazan read for the ole? Why do we have someone represent the ole? Because exactly. So now, what happens if you have a synagogue full of men, and they all go, each one goes up to the Sefer Torah and have the Hazan read for him? Now, a woman goes up, and she gets the Aliyah, and she reads from the Sefer. That it's not disrespect in the way of saying, it's lack of decorum or anything like that, but it's shame for the men. Their male ego is tremendously hurt. Like, here I am sitting, a man, right? The crown of creation, and a woman reads better than me. They're very offended. That's why in practice, even though Shulhan Aruch and the Tur and Abu Darham and Rabbeinu Nisim and all these great rabbis, Sephardim and Ashkenazim, say that a woman can get an aliyah, that's why in the Orthodox community today, women are out because of the fear of men that women will prove themselves to be better than them. So that is the theoretical discussion. The halakha, we say we have to wait till Mashiach comes, and we'll see.